morning, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats, to another issue of Thoughts from a Driver's Seat. My name is Sabir, and I am here to discuss topics that are banal, random, thought-provoking, and recurring. With so many things going on in folks' minds nowadays, I'd like to talk about driving without hitting those little speed bumps on the side of the road. No, I'd like to talk about perspective. Perspective is interesting. I have conversations all the time on Facebook, on Twitter, political conversations, civil rights conversations, socioeconomic conversations, but it's interesting. Perspective is the greatest thing that you can ever provide, because how one person looks at something might be a completely different way of how someone else looks at it. Take, for example, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about what is different. What is the strongest thing? Is it religious? Is it religious reasons? Are there socioeconomic reasons why a culture or why a country or influence, etc.? What is the strongest thing that will allow one party to encroach the boundaries of someone else? And everybody's like, oh, it's religion, or oh, it's influence, or oh, it's money, or oh, it's resources. My conversation, my feedback to the conversation was perspective, because based on how one country or based on how one party looks at something will determine whether or not if that party will become interested in it, or how they view it. Their take on a specific subject will determine whether or not they stand in it. And then they can go ahead and allocate those resources. Then they can allocate their military strength. Then they can allocate, they may have different moral issues, and therefore religious leaders or religious factions may get involved. But it's all keyed about perspective, because the way how one person looks at things is entirely different from the way how somebody else looks at stuff. That goes the same for siblings. That goes the same for marital relationships. Regardless of what it is, it's always about perspective, because somebody sees something different in a completely different light than you do. And it's a matter of, if I go and tell my best friend, hey man, to me the sky is neon yellow, and he looks up in the sky and says, nah, it's blue. Well, we have an argument about it, but we both have different perspectives. It doesn't mean either one of us is more or less crazy. Because if I go and get some folks, if I get 5 people and he's only got 2 other folks, and 5 people say, yeah, the sky is yellow, but he's got a total of 3 people, and they're saying, well, no, we think it's blue. Well, that's what gives my argument credibility. And if I were able to do some kind of scientific test and prove that the sky was yellow, that makes it valid, because we all had the same hypothesis based on our perspective saying that the sky was yellow. Now, I think that is that's a scientific way of looking at it. That's what psychology would teach you. It's one of the few things about psychology I actually like. But when you look at perspective in terms of what is valid, what is credible, and then you build a truth based upon that perspective, and then that truth then becomes involved with someone else's mores and their principles, then it can, and if it's widely enough accepted, it becomes a law. That's all based on perspective. So in terms of the U.S. feelings about North Korea and the way how we don't get along, that's based on perspective. We each have warring perspectives. The way how civil rights were in the 60s and Jim Crow laws, that was based on a perspective and a society that decided to say that this is what we're going to do to oppress our people. This is when you've got brothers and sisters that don't get along, and they're not too keen on each other. They each have perspectives. When you have warring couples and they don't get along and they don't see something, one person sees one thing one way, another person sees something the other way, they have different perspectives. It doesn't make any one of them more or less wrong. They just have to be able to find, each party has to be able to find a way to be able to find that middle ground. And if you're going to compromise, if you're going to just, agree to disagree, what have you. But until we can be able to come to a point where perspective does not trump coordinated effort, strategic effort, because it's fine to have different perspectives. There are way too many perspectives out here for us not to have different perspectives. The main thing is, can you find coordinated effort? Can you come up with strategic thinking? Can you come up with a concerted effort that shows that, hey, we can have some growth here? Even if folks have different perspectives, you can still be able to make things happen. You can still allow things to grow and nourish. Things don't have to be shut down. Things don't have to be rotting or festering. No, it's completely the opposite. Things should nourish. Anyway, I know I'm going past the usual time limit on most of these things. I just had a lot on my mind this morning, but everybody keep in mind perspectives, and inshallah we'll grow. Inshallah, with God's will, if it's in God's plan. My name is Abdul-Haqq, and this has been Thoughts from the Driver's Seat.